All righty.
And you can hear us.
Okay, we're good.
I think you're good to go, Ken.
Okay, thank you.
Let's go, quick.
Just let me,
Who's heading over there now?
all right, it is 6:14. We're going to call to order this meeting of the Board of Selectmen for November 2nd, 2020.
Select board.
The Select Board, sorry, I stand corrected. Thank you, Pat. Pursuant to Government Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information in the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website at www.chelmsfordma.gov. For this meeting, members of the board who wish to watch the meeting can do so by accessing Chelmsford Telemedia website, www.chelmsfordtv.org. No in-person attendance of meetings of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the town website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Just a note to everybody who's in the meeting on Zoom, the chat box that you can type in is part of public record. Even if you send a private message to somebody, that is all captured for the public record. If you would please stand and join me with a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I apologize for the delay. We had a little bit of technical issues here. But to start, we'll start with open session. Let me just see if we have anybody who...
Announcements first? I don't have
Well, we don't really have anybody in the room other than people that belong on the agenda.
And if there's no other open session, can I do something?
Sure.
So, on the 495 South on-ramp, there is a Sharps bucket of the kind that you would put, say, diabetic needles in, and it's sitting on the wooden post upholding the guardrail. I've contacted both CPD and the Massachusetts State Police. I don't know whose jurisdiction an on-ramp is, but I would love to have that removed. It's been there since last Thursday, so.
Well, I know you mentioned it to me, Emily, and I mentioned it to Paul, but where exactly, I drove there looking for, I couldn't find it. Where exactly are you driving?
So when you go on to 495 from Chelmsford, okay, if you look on the left.
Which on-ramp are you on?
North Road?
North Road?
Yeah, North
Okay.
Road.
The only
Okay.
one.
North Road on-ramp. So you go onto 495 on the left side, like a quarter of the way down.
Oh, on the
there's a
left.
wooden post.
That's an off-ramp.
That's an on-ramp.
I'm sorry, I'm
Getting
sorry.
on 495 south.
Going south.
Oh, when you described it before, I think I told them, CPD, that it was on the right side. Got it.
No, it's on the left.
Okay.
I will, I'll call it in right now. So 495 south.
495 south on-ramp. It's like 3 pylons, like it's right on one of the wooden posts, and it's just sitting there. It's one of those large maroon with a white top,
Sharps buckets.
I don't know, like diabetic needle containers. I used to have one when I had a diabetic cat, but it's just sitting there, and someone's.
So prior to getting on the actual 3-lane highway.
Yep,
it's,
yeah, you do not get on the 3-lane highway. You could actually do sort of like a U-E there, right by the triangle, and you could get it. It wouldn't take a whole lot of effort.
I'll take care of that right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I don't see anybody else that's typed. So we'll move along to our public service announcements. First one up is Veterans Agent Regina. Hi, Regina.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hi, everybody. Thank you. Chelmsford, we will be observing our Veterans Day with a virtual pre-recorded program. It will be on the town's website next week. The Chelmsford Veterans Memorial Park Committee is dedicating an Agent Orange stone at Chelmsford Veterans Park. So this recorded ceremony will be available to be viewed on Chelmsford Telemedia and the town's website. Everybody is welcome to visit the park on Veterans Day, which is Wednesday the 11th, to view the stone, but there will be no live program at that day. But the park is always open, and everybody is always welcome to stop by anytime. Another announcement, there is going to be a Veterans Grab and Go pastry this Friday, November 6th, from 10 to 11 a.m., and this is going to be at the Senior Center. You are asked to register by calling the Senior Center at 978-251-0533. And that's about it, except next Tuesday, November 10th, is the birthday of the United States Marine Corps, which was founded November 10th, 1775. So wish all our Marines a happy birthday, 245 years old. So thank you.
Thank you, Regina. Next up, we have tax classification
Do you
hearing.
want me to read the proclamation?
Oh,
or-
I'm sorry. Yes, please.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Sure. Town of Chelmsford Proclamation for Veterans Day, Wednesday, November 11th, 2020. Whereas November 11 was the day on which the armistice ending World War I was signed, and whereas this day has been set aside to commemorate the men and women of the United States who have honorably served our nation in the armed forces, and whereas on Veterans Day 2020, we offer our support to those veterans who suffer illnesses and disabilities resulting from their service, and whereas there are approximately 3,000 veterans living in the town of Chelmsford, now therefore we, the Chelmsford Select Board, do hereby recognize Wednesday, November 11, 2020 as Veterans Day, and on this day urge the residents of Chelmsford to remember the personal contributions of all veterans in their community and nation, and to demonstrate their respect and gratitude in appropriate ways. Signed this second day of November 2020, the Select Board and Patricia Durzis, Town Clerk. The next public announcement is for the tax classification hearing. The Select Board will hold a public hearing to consider whether or not the town should adopt a classification system for the assessment of property in regard to the collection of real estate taxes. This hearing will be held virtually via Zoom at 6 p.m. on Monday, November 16th, 2020. Information on how to join the virtual meeting will be included on the posted meeting agenda, which can be accessed after 4 p.m. on November 12th, 2020 at www.chelmsfordma.gov. And Tricia's not here, is she, Paul?
No.
Okay.
They're setting up.
The next public service announcement is for the state election on November 3rd, 2020, which is tomorrow. Polls open for in-person voting only from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Precincts 1 and 9 are at the town office's gymnasium. Precincts 4, 5, and 6 at McCarthy Middle School's large gym. Precincts 7 and 8 at the McCarthy Middle School's small gym. Precincts 2 and 3 at the senior center. Please do not hand deliver mailed ballots to polling places. Hand-delivered ballots must be returned to the town clerk's office by 8 p.m. on November 3rd.
One note on that, the sign in front of McCarthy doesn't say 1 and 9, it says 1-9.
1 through 9.
It says Town Hall, 1-9,
Oh,
not
instead of
and.
1/9.
Correct. So you may have some confusion tomorrow. I just noticed that tonight as I was driving by. I was like, wait a minute, did they move 6 to Town Hall? So anybody who's home listening, 1 and 9 are at Town Hall. The rest are still at McCarthy. Well, follow the layout that Virginia read. Want to do committee vacancies?
The Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee has 2 vacancies. The Board of Appeals has 1 alternate member vacancy. The CCA Advisory Committee has 2 vacancies. The Center Village Master Plan Implementation Committee has 2 vacancies. The Commission on Disabilities has 1 opening. The Community Action Program Committee has 1 vacancy. The Community Preservation Fund Committee has 1 vacancy. The Council on Aging has 5 associate member positions open. And the Energy Conservation Committee has 3 vacancies. The Historic District Commission has 1 vacancy, the Holiday Decorating Committee 1 vacancy, the Middlesex Canal Commission 2 vacancies. All applicants are welcome for the Parade Committee. The Permanent Building Committee has 1 vacancy, the Personnel Board has 1 vacancy, the Public Celebrations Committee has 5 openings, the Roberts Fields Advisory Committee has 1 vacancy, and the Tree Committee has 2 vacancies. If you are interested in serving on a town board or committee, please complete an application available on the town website or contact the town manager's office. Email is tmoffice@chelmsfordma.gov or telephone 978-250-5202.
Thank you again, Virginia.
Yep.
Next up, we have a special license to sell wine at the agricultural event, Aeronap Cellars, and I think we have Noel here. Can we turn his mic on?
Good evening. This is Noel from Aeronap Cellars.
Welcome. So it looks like you're looking for a license to sell at the farmer's market.
Yes, we've been a vendor at the Maxwell's Winter Market for the past 5 years, and looking forward to continuing to be part of the market for the 2021 season, again, to sell our farm wine.
Does anybody have any questions?
No, looked okay to me. I'll make a motion to approve the special license to sell wine at an agricultural event to Aeronap Cellars LLC for the Maxwell's Winter Farmers Market at 24 Maple Road from November 7th, 2020 through February 27th, 2021.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor by roll call. Pat?
Aye.
Emily?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Virginia?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Good luck, Noel. Hope you have a
Thank
profitable
you.
year. Yep.
Thank you very much.
Let's see.
Good luck.
Next up, we have the same for House Bear Brewing with Beth Borges, and she's also here.
Hi guys, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh,
Wel-
good.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So you're looking to sell at the farmer's market also?
Yes, we make mead. We were at the Maxwell's Farmers Market last winter. It was very successful for us, and we'd like to return.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Beth?
I'll make a motion to approve the special license to sell wine at an agricultural event for House Bear Brewing LLC at the Maxwell's Winter Farmers Market at 24 Maple Road from November 7, 2020 to February 27, 2021.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor by roll call. Pat?
Aye.
Emily?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Virginia?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Congratulations. Good luck.
Thank you so much. I can't wait.
All right, next up, we have license renewal fees, fee
Yeah,
relief.
yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're at the point where the board will be considering upcoming meetings, the calendar year license renewal for common victualler, Class 1 auto and liquor license, restaurant license, so forth, renewals. We've received, within the last 2 weeks or so, several inquiries from liquor license holders of whether the town would waive or reduce the license fees for the calendar year based upon the economic impact that the establishments have been experiencing as a result of the fallout from the pandemic. So basically, we responded that we would bring the request to the board this evening for consideration. And so what we did is we provided for you the fee schedule and the number of license holders and the revenue provided to the town. You know, you can see some of them are nominal fees. You know, for class 1 and 2 autos, it's $200, and common victual is $100. But I think where we're seeing the impact is from those who hold club licenses, such as the Legion and the Elks, for $1,000 a year, and then those who are holding all alcohol licenses in restaurants for $2,500, or beer and wine at a restaurant for $1,200. We've not received any increase from the package store license, which is $1,800, probably because they're probably not suffering the same impact that the
probably doing
on-premises have been receiving. And then the other one would be the in-holder license. The one that can't act because is the golf, Pappas Golf School, because of the conditions. So they're basically going to be held in abeyance. And what the state's allowing license holders to do for those that are shut down or temporary on a hiatus, they're basically allowing them to hold on to the license but not renewal. But these are places that have active, you know, on-premises activity, and they're inquiring to the board whether the board would reduce or eliminate waive the fee. The only community that I'm aware of that I've read accounts for was Holyoke, and they've waived fees in their entirety for the year. We've not received any information about any action by our neighboring communities here in the Greater Lowell area of any modifications to their fee schedules. And as you can see, the total revenue from all these licenses is just over $100,000. And obviously half of that comes from all alcohol. More than half of that, 60%, comes from all alcohol licenses on restaurants, since that's obviously the largest component of that.
Can you pick and choose, or is it all
Yeah,
or none?
no, the board sets the fee, so you can pick and choose.
I don't know if that would be, personally, I don't know if that would be fair. I mean, you mean each individual?
No, not within I mean, by category. You can't pick and choose within a category. In other words, you
Oh,
can't pick and
okay,
choose
all
which
right.
restaurants.
All right.
But you could, for example, modify the restaurant alcohol and beer and wine licenses without modifying the common victual license. I think that's how I understood the question was.
Okay.
Right, but you can't do it within a category, because that would be discriminatory.
Sure.
I mean, I think given especially, just today, we found out that as of the end of this week, there could be even more restrictions than what restaurants have right now as far as being open and serving alcohol. I would not be opposed to reducing for 1 year the license fees for restaurant, the all alcohol and beer and wine, and I don't know, perhaps the general. What would be a general on-premise beer? Is that what does that?
Yeah, that's the
Pappas?
one
That's
license where,
Pappas.
yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
And I don't know, what about the clubs? You said we only have two.
Yeah, that's the
Legion.
Elks and the Legion.
And are they open now?
I don't know if they're open, but I know they're suffering.
Right.
So even if they are open, either way, they're having issues.
So if they're not open, could they hold it in abeyance like Pappas is or not?
Yeah, you could until such time that they do it. But the issue is they have to keep their license with the state.
Right.
That's the issue. So they've got to go in. And what the state's basically saying is, well, you don't have to supply the insurances and so forth if you're not operating, or workers' comp, for example, if you're not operating. But they want to keep the license current.
Do you know exactly which places called and looked for relief?
Yeah. Do you want me to identify it?
Well, no, but I'm curious, because part of me is looking at this list and saying, well, auto dealers, common vigilar,
They didn't call. This is
and-
just restaurants. Restaurants are the ones that call.
entertainment, full day, it's only $100.
Right, so
But
they're not calling. Where are we
Kind of
getting?
looking at the stuff that's over $1,000, but package stores, I mean, we
They're not
all know
calling.
the package stores are making money here.
Yeah, they're not calling.
Yeah, I mean, I
This is
wouldn't-
really the restaurants.
Right, yeah.
who are
I mean,
calling.
I would, if we were going to.
All pouring, we want to maybe take a look at all pouring licenses.
That's where they're coming
Yeah.
from, the restaurants who are.
So I would have no problem with waiving the fees on all pouring establishments where they've
The
taken a
whole,
pretty
the
good.
entire fee?
Waiving it or
Why not?
reducing it?
I think honestly, so having some inside knowledge into pouring fees and licenses, I think half might be fair, just so that nobody's getting out of it, but half, given the amount of volume cut down, I don't think package stores need any help. They are raking it in because it seems like alcohol consumption is actually up because of self-medicating and stress. But I feel like with, restaurants and we don't really have any bars, but with, not like uniquely bars. We have restaurants with bars, but I feel like half would probably be about adequate. Because I think we are headed for another shutdown. I think it's irrational to say that, 3 weeks in the red, my work has ramped up precautions. I can't go in good faith to a meeting with people outside of my general little bubble. But I think we're headed for another shutdown, and I think that the fair thing to do, given that we're going to have to be looking at probably more drink mix deliveries, from the restaurants that have on-hand alcohol to get rid of. I think that the sort of like mason jar drink mixes that they were working on in the spring was a good idea. I think just helping them out, helping the distributors out, helping the manufacturers out, particularly the small ones, I think that that's all very useful.
Yeah, but I don't, like, I look at a restaurant, beer and wine, $1,200, $600 isn't, I don't think, gonna help these folks stay afloat. I mean, I kind of agree with George to do the whole thing for restaurant, beer and wine, general on-premise beer and wine, and in-holder. I mean, because the hotels are getting, I can't imagine they have anybody staying there. And that's, that's $3,500.
So that would be, I don't know, like 86K, at least 86K, right?
I mean, could you do half
Do
the
you have that
restaurant?
in reserve somewhere to cover it somewhere?
We'll have to cover it,
That's why I was thinking half.
Well, what if you did?
And like I said, like I think, when you look at profit margins, alcohol is a higher profit margin than food. Food is sometimes a losing proposition depending on the market you're in. And it's alcohol that makes up the difference. So yeah, $600, if you're in Boston on a Friday night, that's your tips for the night. But on, a non-pandemic year, I feel like this is more like a gesture.
Yeah, I don't think any of this is going to make or break them, even if you do all of it.
It's not significant, but it's a gesture. Like, can we make a gesture?
I think it's significant with the new law that just came out, the new ruling with the cutting the hours down at, 10 o'clock?
Yeah, 9:30.
9:30,
You gotta
start
stop
leaving
at
at 9:30, I mean,
Well, I guess why I would be opposed to just waiving them completely is because then you would, then are we going to waive for common victular and auto licenses too? I think they should be at least paying as much as a common victular license. So I would be opposed to totally eliminating it. I mean, that's,
You want to drop all fees to $100?
That feels arbitrary.
yeah.
Yeah,
that
it does.
feels
I feel
arbitrary.
like we have a schedule set because of the profit margins of them. And I feel like saying, yes, this year has been awful, let's cut it in half. If you can, it's almost like those, everyone's got to give a little here. So, I'm not in favor of changing the tax rate. But we're here and there where we can waive fees where it might make a little bit of a difference. I think that that's making an effort. I also think that it acknowledges that we actually can't do without the fees because our margins are pretty tight. So some of that is going to go to things like making sure the parking spaces are painted or the potholes are filled or, the electric cables or whatever. Everything is up and running. So I think so long as we can, I think meeting halfway is fine for a year.
Virginia, what are you thinking?
I think that they're still open for business, so, and I think whether you reduce it by half or eliminate it, it's still just a gesture. This isn't going to make or break any one of these establishments, and
Would you be open to half?
I like Emily's suggestion of the half, because they're still operating, but not at the capacity that they were before.
Could you do half for all pouring?
Yeah, that's what I would
Yeah.
do.
That's what, yeah, I think that's what she's suggesting.
Yeah, I don't want to do half for auto license, which
For
is
for
too.
a
No,
package store. yeah,
It would
right.
be the club, the restaurant,
Yeah, pouring.
both restaurants, the general on premises, and the inn holder.
Yeah, pouring.
Right.
50% of the pouring license.
Is that reasonable?
Yes, to me.
So you need a vote?
Need a motion, yeah,
Yeah.
need a vote.
Paul, are you comfortable with
Yeah,
that from
yeah.
covering it and the budget standpoint?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll find a way.
So I will make a motion for the 2021 annual license renewal fees to reduce the all pouring alcohol licenses by 50%.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor by roll call. Pat?
Aye.
Emily?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Virginia?
Aye.
I vote aye.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have Jen Melanson. She's going to give us a update community services. Welcome,
Hi,
Jen.
folks. Hi. Is it possible for me to have screen sharing capability? I have just a couple of slides to share.
Let me do this. Let me just check quickly if I have your presentation. I don't know if
Oh, it looks like I
There you
can
go.
do it now.
Yep, you
Actually,
got it.
someone gave us.
you're up.
Perfect.
You're live.
Okay. All right. So first off, just a recap of the Gardens for Good. Had a very, very successful inaugural season this year. I was really blown away by the support from the community. I heard nothing but really great things from folks every time I was out there tending the gardens, and people walked by, they would stop and ask questions and give feedback, positive feedback. And one time I even had somebody pull out a $20 bill from their pocket wanting to give a donation to the garden. So I couldn't be happier with the way that it went. The garden produced about 200 pounds of produce out of the 6 beds. We grew tomatoes, lettuce, cucumbers, some snap peas, some very large zucchini, and everything was distributed amidst the community. So there were times that produce went out with grocery bags. That Table of Plenty was distributing with their weekly grab-and-go meal. Some of the produce went to the food pantry, and then a lot of the produce went to individual folks in the community that I was helping out. And there were some times that people actually came into my office to pick up produce. You can see the photo on the right is a refrigerator that I have in my office full of produce. That refrigerator was donated by a resident, so came in handy to be able to store stuff right in my office, and people, residents could come in and pick up directly from the fridge in my office. The original intent of the garden was to serve folks who qualify for SNAP benefits or meet other low-income eligibility requirements. That was kind of my idea back before the pandemic hit. When the pandemic hit and everybody was really starting to struggle, I decided to waive any sort of minimum income requirements, and it was basically if you needed produce, you could come and get it, or you could call me and I could come and drop it off. I also have to send a huge thanks to many community backyard gardeners who called me and donated produce, overflow from their backyard gardens that they were looking to pass along to folks. And so that greatly increased the capacity of what I was able to give out to people. So I think that we found that, there's need in the community, and we were able to, kind of maybe make a dent in that. So the good news is that for next year, we are expanding, and I was granted a grant award from the Greater Lowell Health Alliance, and also, excuse me, a very large donation from a local business, Edwards Vacuum, contributed to allow for the gardens to more than double in size for next year. So the installation, the first part of the installation was just completed this weekend. So the gardens now go from those 6 beds right at the end of the median to stretching all the way across the median in the back parking lot of the town offices. And so this will substantially increase the amount of produce that we will be able to get out to folks next growing season. It also means that it is growing beyond my capabilities to sort of tend to this garden on my own. So I'm definitely going to be in need of volunteers for next year. So anybody who's wanting to volunteer to help out in the gardens, they can contact me, and I give my contact information at the end of this, in the last slide. I did have some help from a couple of local Boy Scouts this year, which they were tremendously helpful. And so looking to really increase volunteer efforts, even working with Deb Siriani at the Senior Center to get some seniors involved to be able to get hours for the senior tax break. So very excited about this expansion project. So that segues into something that I think is maybe a little bit overdue in our community, which is I'll be establishing a food security council. So if there's one thing that this pilot project with the Gardens for Good showed me was just how much of a need there is in the community to increase access to healthy foods. So it's not just about shelf-stable boxed items, boxed and canned goods that can come from a food pantry, but getting good quality, organic, fresh, locally grown produce into the hands of the people who can't necessarily afford to buy it from retailers. So I have been in touch with the directors of Table of Plenty and the food pantry, some other folks in town who have been very instrumental in doing their own sort of small initiatives to address food security in town. And we will be creating a food security council. And this will, you can see the mission there is to bring together community partners working to address food security, insecurity in Chelmsford with a focus on identifying and alleviating unmet needs. So what I found was that there are so many individuals and small groups of people who are doing really great things to address food insecurity in the town. But not all of us know about each other, and I don't know about all of the entities that are out there. So I want to be able to connect with everybody who's doing this work so that we all know what everybody's doing, and then that way that can help us identify where the gaps in services are and how we can fill those gaps. So I'm hoping that we can have this council put together, in the next month or so, and maybe get a meeting in, the first initial meeting in before the holidays, but I definitely am not wanting to overload anybody at this time of year. So if it doesn't happen until after the holidays, after the first of the year, then I think that's fine. I don't think that there's a rush on this, but certainly after the holidays, we'll go full steam ahead with this. And finally, I had put a survey out on social media a couple of weeks ago, looking for folks who are wanting to help out people in need for the holidays. Even though we're in the midst of a pandemic, the holidays tends to be the giving season. And I think that the really wonderful thing about Chelmsford is that there are a lot of very generous, big-hearted, giving people that live in this town and that want to help folks out that need the help. So rather than me sort of building a program from the ground up and trying to reinvent the wheel, I'm working in partnership with Robin Knox and the CHS Santa program that many of you may know was started many, many, many years ago from a former Chelmsford High School school nurse, Maureen, and Robin is her cousin and has taken over the program. And so everybody who answered my survey and indicated that they wanted to offer help for the holidays is being contacted to get permission to pass along their contact information to Robin, and then Robin will be reaching out to folks who want to help. In addition to that, any individuals or families who are in need of help for the holidays can contact Robin at her phone number listed here, 978-259-8396, or at her email address, robinknox@comcast.net, or they can also reach out to my office and I can pass information along to Robin. In addition to that, I also take applications for the Beacon Santa. So if there are folks that are in need that want to put in an application with the Beacon Santa to be able to get a gift card, then they can contact me. And it's a very short application process, and the applicant needs to write a very short just letter to go along with it. And I can explain that if folks call my office. And then lastly, right along the same lines as help for the holidays, but also going beyond the holidays, is that I will be accepting gift card donations to Market Basket, Hannaford, Walmart, and Target, any denomination. Those gift cards can be either mailed to my office at the address listed here, or they can be dropped off at my office. The purpose of these gift cards will be for me to use them to go out and purchase needed items for residents in the community. So I'm not looking to give gift cards out to residents, but more to be able to help residents. It's something that actually I've been doing since back in March when the pandemic hit, and folks couldn't get out to the grocery store, and oftentimes I was, going out and doing grocery shopping for the folks, and then getting reimbursed for that. So this just kind of helps that process along and make it a little bit more streamlined. So anybody who wants to donate gift cards to any of those four retailers, those gift cards could be sent to my office, either dropped off or mailed. And that's all I have. So if anybody has any questions, for sure, I'm open to taking them, or comments or criticisms or anything.
Any questions, Pat?
Yeah, Jen, I have a question about the Food Security Council. Do you intend that to be like a standing committee, or just informal get-together of interested people periodically? How would that work?
I think right now I'm looking at it more as just a very informal thing. It maybe could progress to a more formal standing committee, but for right now I'm kind of just looking to bring together folks in the community that are doing work to address food insecurity in the community.
Okay, and as far as, you said you're not sure when a meeting might be, you might wait till after the holidays have passed or whatever, but if somebody's interested, they should just get in touch with you as far as,
Sure.
When it's going to happen.
Absolutely, and as I said, I've reached out to Table of Plenty and to the food pantry, and they're on board, also to a couple of individual residents, and I'll be sending an email to the faith-based community tomorrow, and I have reached out to Superintendent Lang because I'd love to have somebody from the schools. I'd love to have the schools represented too, because I think that they do a lot of work to address food insecurity within the school system. So.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Anybody else have any questions?
Thank you, Jen.
Jen, I have a couple
you.
quick questions for you.
Sure.
What if a resident just wanted to make a cash donation?
To the garden, or in general?
Just in general.
Just in general.
To your office, instead of gift cards, if they just wanted to drop off a check.
Yeah, I mean, they could do that. A check is a little bit tricky because I don't really have like an expense account. I have an expense account that's attached to the garden. So if it was, a cash or a check donation to the garden, then that could be deposited into the expense account for the garden. But as far as like just a general, donation, cash is very easy, because then I can just take that cash and turn it into a gift card. A check is a little bit trickier, and to be honest, I would have to check with Darlene and see how that would be handled.
Okay.
Yeah, you could deposit the check as a gift. The selectmen often have gift accounts, and then you could then withdraw from that account, so that can be done.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you say,
I do want to say that I kind of have never wanted to be sort of a keeper of money. So this is why, the gift card donations I've sort of set up so that, I will be the one who uses them to purchase needed items for folks, because I don't want to get into any sort of complications with giving out gift cards and how do you decide, who gets what and how many times do people get them and that sort of thing. So I think it can get a little bit tricky when it comes to that sort of thing. So I try to stay out of the business of handling cash as much as possible.
Totally understandable. And my last question, and really just my financial planning background, I'm just curious. You say donation, is this tax deductible?
That's a good question and not something that I can answer. I would have to, check with Darlene about that as well.
If they donate to the town, it's tax deductible, yes.
Okay, great. So
Thanks,
you
Paul.
prefer obviously gift cards given to the town, tax deductible?
Yeah.
Great.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you.
All right, with that, no other questions? Great, all right. We'll start with our town manager reports. Traffic safety, Paul?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Half dozen items to report on this evening. First one deals with Traffic Safety Committee and the Main Street Traffic Calming Initiative. That was the core activity in the last month of October since we last met. The initiative was up for a month. It began with calming stations positioned near Wilson Lane and Barry Drive at the end of September. After analyzing the initial setup, 2 further calming stations were positioned near Levitt Lane and near the Route 3 overpass in mid-October. It's fair to assess, as written in the report, that there was a lot of reaction to the traffic calming initiative. Some folks were pleased that the town was making efforts to address the concerns of traffic speed across the community, but there was a lot of negative reaction to the format of the initiative on Main Street from residents. But at the end of the day, we utilized the police department and Chief Spinney to conduct a traffic speed study to analyze the effect of the traffic calming towards the end period over the last week. And at this point, I'll turn the microphone over to Chief Spinney, who can review the traffic speed study data and give you his impression of the program.
So just to clarify, Paul, there were actually 4, not 3.
Yeah.
At the beginning, there were 2. There was
Yep,
the one you
right.
said and one by the cemetery.
Yep. Yep.
So, can we turn on, there he is. Welcome, Chief.
Good evening, members of the board. Nice to see you.
Do you want to run us through the traffic data?
Yeah, I was going to ask, Mr. Manager, are you going to be able to share that document as I review it, or how do you guys?
Ken, can you pull it up?
Yeah, let me just, give me 1 second,
One second.
Chief. You're looking for the blue grid?
Yes.
Well, if you don't mind, I'd like to start with the traffic committee slide.
All right,
which
give
was
me,
just to
I'll
go over
start-
some of
oh. So, Pete, is there any way you can turn on sharing? I don't have it. Just give us 1 second.
Colleen.
I printed it.
What's that, Chief?
I can see it, so you can, I have to print it.
Oh, Chief, they're giving you the ability to share. Do you have it? Do you want to do it, or you want me to do it?
I don't have it on my computer. I have a hard
Okay.
copy of it.
Colleen, can you switch that over to me?
Yep. Here you go.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm still being told I can't screen share. It's still on Chief.
Well, I could certainly discuss it, Mr. Chairman. It's not necessarily that important to be viewed.
Right.
I was just going to go over some of the committee
Says you've been
results.
assigned.
I think it would be
Overlap
better
here.
if you can show
All right,
it.
hold on 1 second, Chief. They just did it. Let me just share this. And
He
you want
wants
me to
to
go
go
back to the
up
beginning?
The one before that, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That good?
That was fine, thank you. As the board is well aware, we put the traffic committee in place over a year ago. We meet every month. It's comprised of police, fire, public works, the town manager, and the assistant town manager. And I think it's been extremely effective. And the reason for that is, prior to that, people would email the police, they'd email DPW, they might email or reach out to the town manager's office with a traffic or safety concern. And there'd always take some lag time in there for that individual to grab the correct department to address an issue. What's worked out so well with this committee is, we meet every month face to face, or at the very least Zoom to Zoom now, and we talk about all the information, comments, concerns, emails, correspondence we receive for the prior month. And we're able to discuss it in real time and come up with solutions. And in many cases, immediate solutions. What I put down here was just kind of a snapshot of projects, both small and large, that we've addressed. You know, large things from the Westford Street closure, which we still yet to see if that's going to be a final solution or not. But, you know, yellow turn signals added at 110 at Route 4 in the center. A yellow turn signal added at Parkhurst Road at North Road. Other significant developments and accomplishments have been the illumination signals at all the crosswalks in town that we're still building on. I think that's been very well received. Smaller projects have been just new signage concerns from residents on streets, or brush trimming, things of that nature. And obviously, the Main Street calming project was something we discussed and implemented. So I'm very pleased with how the traffic committee's been meeting and really responding to concerns of the residents. I get emails, I respond back. We're going to take it up at the next meeting. We discuss if a project is viable or not, and we get to it immediately. And if we can't do a project, we get back to that resident as soon as possible as well, and basically explain why something either is or is not doable. So I think that's worked out very well. Any questions about the traffic committee before we move on to Main Street? Okay, with regards to Main Street, you know, this looks like a lot of data. This system does have limitations, and before I go into some of the data, I want to point out that this system is not the cables across the street that a lot of people think a speed audit system is. This system is comprised of a radar board that is mounted on a telephone pole. The board either can, or if we decide to, will not show someone's speed when they drive past it. In this particular case, we had the sign activated that if you went 10 miles an hour over the posted speed limit of 30, the sign would illuminate and show you the actual speed you were doing. While the sign is doing this, it's recording the data. The sign only records data of vehicles heading toward it. So that's very important with these numbers you're looking at. So this sign was posted on Main Street as you approach Lovett Lane, obviously in the right-hand lane. So any vehicle that was coming from Westford, let's say, and approaches from the back of the sign heading towards Route 40, that data is not being captured in this study. It's just a limitation of this system. I'm hoping to acquire a brand new speed trailer system this spring that records both lanes. That's the full-size trailer type. We have one of those now. I want to acquire a second one because of the requests from the community to have these positioned in various locations. So that's something we are working on. But this particular study, it's important to remember the numbers reflect one travel lane, and that would be heading outbound on Main Street towards Westford. So you're leaving Route 40, heading down Main Street towards the town of Westford. The system was deployed prior to that corner on Lovett Lane. So it was deployed from October 20th to October 26th. And on the left, in the vertical column, is the date. And the rest of the numbers reflect the various 5 speed increments, 31 to 35, 36 to 40, etc. We had a system failure on 10/21, As you can tell, if you look to the right under total, that 607 is roughly half of the rest of the readings for every other day during the cycle. Not sure what happened. We're not sure if the sun hit the board a certain way or if there was a battery failure, but clearly the sign did not, the system did not function properly on the 21st. So in any event though, the good news about the study is over 90% of the time, the vehicles are traveling really at or below 10 miles an hour over the speed limit. So that's a good thing. A concerning thing, if you look under the 41 to 45 column, you see speeds in there that it's unacceptable, or the amount of cars doing it. I mean, it's a small amount, but that's what concerns us. Because when you start getting 15, 20 over, that's when people have issues. That's when it takes so much more time to stop a vehicle if someone pulls out of a driveway, etc. So the good news is that that's a small percentage. It's really like 6%. The bad news is it's happening. Now, does that probably happen on most our streets? Yes. I feel confident in saying I think on most our streets, those percentages are low. I know optically on Main Street, there's been a lot of complaints. Now, Main Street is a little unique. It's very wide, it's very flat, and it's very straight. So that leads to people pushing it, as opposed to obviously a much narrower, curvier road. So that's why I think Main Street has had some optics of excessive speeds. When you get down, if you look down to the bottom right, the average speed of the entire study is 35 miles an hour. So that's a good thing. How does this reflect the traffic calming? In my opinion, I think these speeds on Main Street, what I'm looking at right here, are pretty indicative to what I have seen on Main Street prior to traffic calming. Now, that's not to say that the traffic calming is a bad idea. I think it's great that the town took some steps to address an issue, to address some concerns. And I also think it's clear to say that the traffic slowed down in the calming area. The problem is, I think people speed right back up when they leave the calming area. But it's not as bad as I think some of the optics portray it to be. Just like on Stedman Street, we were getting a ton of calls that Stedman Street was a racetrack. When we did the speed study on Stedman Street just over a year ago, we found the average speed of 37 miles an hour, which is only 7 miles an hour over the posted limit. So I think volume plays into it. I think high volume oftentimes leads people to believe that vehicles are speeding. And not to say that there aren't vehicles speeding, there are. But I wouldn't classify it as a chronic or crisis situation. I really wouldn't. What I'm proposing to do next year is, I think some illuminated signs, not unlike the one on Old Westford Road at Davis, where vehicle speeds are illuminated with some flashing lights. I think a permanent structure or two on Main Street near those corners, I think would be very effective. Studies have shown that when people see their speeds on the boards, they do slow down. In this case, they did. This board, it's not shown on these slides, but the board showed 75% of the time when a vehicle speed was illuminated, the speeds dropped. So I think the signs, the warning signs, are very effective. I think they would be as effective, if not more so, than traffic calming in this particular street, especially near those corners. Somebody unfamiliar with Main Street, that's where you run into a problem on those corners. The corner at Wilson Street and the corner at Levitt Lane. That's the concern. I'm going to do another study. We're going to put the board out again this week, now that the traffic calming has been removed. And when I get that data, I'll share that with the board as well. It'll be interesting to compare that, calming versus no calming. But I can tell you, my experience for Main Street, having been out there myself, doing traffic enforcement, and reading the officer's radar and traffic enforcement reports, these speeds we're seeing here are pretty indicative of what we've always seen in that area. So
So, Chief, I just have a question about the way that you're going to tell whether traffic was calmed by the barrel prototypes that were in the center of the street is by collecting data now without the barrels there. Because there was only one speed collection point. It wasn't like we were measuring speed before the barrels and then after the calming devices, right? To know like what was their speed coming into the calming setup and what was their speed coming out. There was just one measurement point. Even it was like before you even got to Burton Lane, so it was still on that straightaway. So that left me with the question of how do you know that traffic is being calmed or not? And what you're saying is you're going to collect more data without the calming measurements there and see how it compares?
Yeah, I
Okay.
just want to see the comparison.
No, I think it's a good thing to do because if we only have the equipment to measure one data point, one spot of speed, I don't know how you know whether it's effective or not, except from your historical knowledge, which I appreciate.
Well, my concern with Main Street are the corners. So to
Right.
me, I wanted to know if the traffic calming on Main Street affected the overall travel of Main Street. That was the hope. I don't think it played out that way.
Right.
So I think the safest thing to do is to really, in my opinion, put more of a warning to the motorists near those corners, whether they're familiar with Main Street or not. My experience has been that those illuminated warning signs do a fantastic job of slowing down the motoring public, especially if they're not familiar with the street. People also never know if there's going to be enforcement accompanying the signage. So I know when I'm driving in another community, when I come across one of those signs, you're kind of always looking, ooh, is there going to be an officer running radar in addition to the sign? So I find them very effective. But you're right, there was only one measuring point, but I was interested in really seeing if the traffic calming affected the corners that we've had problems in.
Thank you.
Chief, I would think that closer to West Chelmsford would be, that's the toughest part of Main Street. I mean, it's couple of bad curves there. You have much data on that, or is that what you're concerned about? Is that what you're
Yeah, I'm
saying?
concerned with the Wilson Street corner that back in the day, I'm sure some remember, there was a flashing light there. And I used to like that flashing light. It gave the motoring public an advisory of some kind that there was a change in the road. We're gonna bounce that sign around, but what I would like to do, really, the first of next year, is to put permanent electronic signage on Main Street at both those corners, one in the western part of the street, and then one closer to the Lovett Lane intersection.
Thank you.
I don't know if it's if it's in your handout, but there was a third page showing
Yeah.
some, okay, here we go. What I wanted to do here was really just illustrate some of our enforcement efforts since July. And it's fair to say that we have been really focusing on the North Chelmsford area really since last July. As the board will recall, we had some extra officers placed every day, practically, on the Dunstable Main Street areas for, in addition to truck concerns, just overall motor vehicle speeding and whatnot. And I think it was extremely effective. Illustrated here, if you look under the right-hand column, Dunstable Road, 65 motor vehicles were stopped between July and October 15th. Those numbers are down, believe it or not. I think we've made an impact up there. Every day, the officers were up there doing speed enforcement. And that's not to say that every one of those 65 is a speeding violation, certainly not. But the car stops have definitely quieted down up there as a result of the extensive enforcement. Ledge Road, we're just not seeing any violations on Ledge Road. I mean, yes, the trucks are on it, yes, the trucks are large, yes, the trucks are noisy, but they're not breaking the law. Main Street, 116 motor vehicle stops. That's a lot. Now, the officers are out there 2 or 3 times a day, and the violations they're getting are that 6% of the cars really doing 13, 14, 15, and more. Those are the stops being made. Groton Road, that's a tough road to run speed enforcement on. I can speak firsthand to that. It's a tough spot to be able to safely position yourself to do speed enforcement without getting creamed when you pull out to get somebody. 56 car stops, we're definitely out there, but it has not been a chronic issue as far as speeding on Groton Road. Stedman Street, 173 motor vehicle stops. That jumped out at me because it's really almost double everything else. Most of that, believe it or not, is not speeding violations. Unregistered vehicles, uninspected, stop sign violations, red light violations from Chelmsford Street. The cars are being stopped on Stedman, so that's why the data points on Stedman really jump. Again, we did a speed study on Stedman Street a year or so ago, and the speeds just were not what some of the opinions were. But that street is one of the most heavily traveled roads in town. When you get away from Chelmsford Street and North Road, Stedman Street's right up there. Major cut through in town. So the officers hit that quite a bit. That's why you're seeing the amount of stops. Littleton Road, 68 car stops. We're going to refocus some of our attention on Littleton Road, Turnpike Road in the coming months. The other thing I wanted to illustrate here was some of our rail trail accidents. There's only been a few. Oddly enough, they've all been this year. We had 4. Golden Cove, 2 accidents basically involving one vehicle rear-ending another because the vehicle in front had stopped for someone crossing the bike trail cross area with the illuminating lights. High Street, vehicle collided with a stopped motor vehicle, and Maple Road, a vehicle collided with a bicycle. These were all minor injury, thank goodness, but I went back 3 years, there were none. It happens to be 4 in 2020, but none in the 2 prior years. I'm also happy to say the crash reports are down. I did a 5-year comparison, and crashes are low. They're at an all-time low for the last 5 years, townwide. As far as moving forward, we're going to keep doing our sign deployment. My hope is to add another signboard or two to the department's resources, because it is one of the major concerns of the community. And we established a 2-officer full-time traffic unit in July. And as long as the manning holds the levels that we are at, those officers are able to focus 100% of their attention on traffic-related issues. Where prior to that, the traffic unit got absorbed into the day shift complement. So that's happening less now, which means they can focus on traffic more. So that's all I have to report. If anyone else has any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
I had a question on the last slide, the upcoming projects.
You want to put that back up?
It said, well, I can just read it. There's a bullet that says appraisal process ongoing for the Ledge Road turnaround, cost unknown currently for land acquisition. Construction estimated at $62.5K. Is the cost unknown for the land acquisition, is that a statement of status, or is there an issue?
No, that's the statement of status.
Okay.
It should be at your upcoming meeting, you'll get the order for the taking for the appraisal work, yeah.
And
It's not ready at this time.
Was this, Paul, was this covered in the budget, the fiscal ’21 budget
Yeah,
the town meeting
it's in the
approved?
it's in the road construction budget, so that'll be funded.
Okay.
Excuse me, is that on top of the 120 for the sidewalks or whatever it was?
No, this isn't the sidewalks, this is the bus turnaround.
That's the bus
End
turnaround.
of Ledge Road.
So then, George brought up sidewalks. We had talked about it at a future meeting, talking about what the sidewalk master plan or complete street looked like for Chelmsford, so I just wanted to remind. And then I went back and I just looked at my notes from when we reviewed the North Chelmsford traffic mitigation matrix. Were we going to try to refine the design estimate portion for the left turn on a ledge road?
Yeah, they're still working on that.
Okay.
DPW is, still developing that. What you will get at a future meeting, we're sort of in the gathering mode right now. You will get the road construction plan, the sidewalk construction plan, and the estimates for the ledge road area all coming up at a future meeting
Okay.
before the end of the year.
And then on the Route 40 access road, I think we were talking about trying to get the property owners to come to a meeting. I think we were talking about the residential property owner, but if we're going to do that, I think it would be beneficial to maybe have the industrial property owner come and talk to us about what they see their role. And I think the only way we're going to start driving the alignment that the state needs is if we start having the conversations.
I agree.
So my thought would be, I know we talked about inviting the residential property owner here, but maybe we expand that and also invite the industrial property owners.
Well, I think you should have the investor property owner first.
Sure, whatever makes sense. I just think, I think we have to define a next step to do at this meeting to keep it rolling so we know whether or not it's feasible.
I mean, unless you can
Whether
give
we
us some
can
of the
get that
guidance on how
alignment.
we sort of put a spearhead on this project.
So what do you want the next step to be on the access road?
Well, that's what I'm asking you, is what do you think the next step should be? I mean, the feedback we've gotten from Tom Golden, and we're hearing from the state, is they need support by the community. But there's nobody spearheading that support.
Right.
And
I thought it was going to be Mike McCall, but he left. And so
Right.
now the question is, okay, well, who's going to pick up the,
so the two major holes to me, that I see, or the three major holes, are understanding more comprehensively the perspective and the willingness of the industrial property owner, the same with the residential, those are the first two, and getting the state and but we gotta, I think those first two steps are critical before we push too hard on the state, because that's what we need to know in order to get alignment in the community.
agreed, but do you want to have that meeting and as part of do you want to have the primary investor on Route 40 and/or the landowners that are behind Ward Way here in a public meeting, or do you want to bring them into a room at Town Hall and find out what they need to make it all, and report
Well,
back to us?
it's either, if it's gonna involve the whole board, it's either gotta be here in a public meeting or justified as an executive session.
I don't know how you justify it as an
Yeah,
executive
so it's
session.
going to have to be
But
public.
I agree. I think it needs to be with the whole board. I mean, we've had enough of these one-off meetings with, you talking to them and then coming back and
Right,
telling us.
so
and then-
so you're saying let's get all of the landowners from behind Ward Way and the investor, or do you want the investor first and then the people behind Ward? I'm just trying to get some sort of, how do you want to do it?
I mean, you're the one that's kind of been
Yeah, I
driving
mean,
this,
you've
so.
been, so,
But just, you know, I think.
whatever makes sense, I just think it needs to start happening,
Right,
something.
with the entire board.
Right, and that's an initial step, whether it's the investor only or, all the property owners. I defer to your judgment, because I haven't talked to any of them,
I
so.
don't think there's that many to begin with now, are there? I mean,
I don't know.
there's, because when they did that land swap, that eliminated, you only really got the Wendland, I think and she's agreed to, sit down and negotiate, the. I
Is
guess-
Winland going to want to come in and stand, to a public meeting and discuss what she needs?
At some point, she's going to have to.
Yeah, it's gotta go back to the public to get alignment anyway.
Okay.
Well, I mean, is it a public meeting, is it I don't know, whatever kind of meeting you have to be, we just gotta get it. Because I think there's a lot of money that we're projecting to being spent on Ledge Road that we won't have to, that we could put onto the other side of the,
Except that you've said that's not supposed to cost the town anything. Right, so let's get it out so we know whether it does or not.
well, I'm sure that it'll cost some money. I think, didn't they say that they would pay a big part of it? That one meeting we had with them at the, way back in the beginning?
Right, but I haven't had recent discussions. with-
Nobody has, I'm just saying.
So I guess the question is, Paul, because this was moving along, at whatever clip it was moving along, and then COVID happened. And then
Right.
Mike left.
Right.
So how do we get it back on track? What do you recommend? How do you recommend?
But Michael wasn't doing the discussions with Win Lin. I mean, you know, my understanding was that you and George were having discussions out there.
I've never spoken to Winland. You've spoken to Winland.
Right, so I mean, so therefore, you know,
She's willing to trade off some property because I think one of the concerns was one of the gentlemen needs a place to live up there and
We don't need to talk about the details
No,
now.
I'm just, right, because it's not officially on the, I just want to
discussed.
say, let's identify the next step for this body and
Do it.
execute it.
I'd be happy to help any way I can. I mean, I think it's the right thing for the town and the right thing for all the people on Dunstable and Ledge Road and Swain Road and probably Groton Road and Main Street. I mean, I think it's a lot of people, and God forbid, we've been very lucky so far. We haven't had any I mean, I had a police officer do a detail up there 2 weeks ago, and he said, I couldn't believe how busy it was and how dangerous it is up there. And he wasn't working there. He was working like a little further up, but he was still in Chelmsford. He's a Chelmsford police officer, and he said it. And I just said, hey, can I tell you? I'd be happy to do whatever anybody wants me to do, or work with anybody who wants to work with me. I'd be happy.
But I mean, I think I'm looking for some guidance from people who have the experience. I mean, you've been doing this a lot longer than I have, and you've been a town manager longer. At this point, where from what we've been told, you have buy-in from Winland, you have buy-in from the people behind Ward Way, how do we now take the next step to get some type of a formulated plan that the whole board can hear and then present that to town?
then perhaps it's as simple as bringing them to inviting them to a meeting virtually to Win Lin and the property owners, which would be Rivard and Newport, to participate in the discussion at a board meeting in terms
At a
of,
board meeting, or if we have to, we schedule a work session,
Work
or,
session, what
you know,
have you.
I don't care, but if we don't start doing something, it's dead.
Okay?
and I would assume that if they're within an alignment, we could then take the next step of just having a general discussion with the community up there. And then if that's still supportive, then you go to the state saying, look,
Right.
we have
'Cause-
I
buy-in.
mean, I think it
Because
would be
the
beneficial to
problem
have,
now is you don't know, nobody knows what discussion to have with the community, right? Because we haven't done the first step that Paul's talked about.
all right, so I think we should schedule a work session, invite both parties in to talk to the board about what they're willing and what their appetite is for this access road, and, you know, what needs to be done, what the potential cost will be, and who is willing to share their brunt of the cost to get this done.
When
And
do you
with
wanna
that, then you can present it to people in town and see if there's buy-in.
When do you want to hold that? Because we'll reach out tomorrow and to Win Lin and to Newport and to Rivard to schedule a date for a work session for the board. When do you want to do that?
I mean, I can make my schedule work, so it's up to everybody else.
Next Monday? We don't have a meeting next Monday. Or is that too soon?
November 9th?
Is this something you want minutes for?
Yeah. Want to do 6 o'clock next Monday?
Hang on a second.
I mean, that means you've got to reach out to them and get them committed
Tomorrow.
by Wednesday afternoon, right,
Is that too short, Paul?
for posting?
No, Thursday. Well, we can
Yeah,
post it
but-
by Thursday, but we'll
Then you
reach
gotta
out
say to
tomorrow.
Christine.
We'll reach out tomorrow and
Yeah.
see if, you know.
I mean, there's also the 23rd, it's the Thanksgiving week, but that's the next Monday that we don't have a board meeting. If you need more time,
I can do either, so.
I can do either.
Why don't we try for next Monday,
Right.
and if not, then get dates from them, and
All
Yeah,
right, so I'll try the 9th, and if the 9th doesn't work, we'll back up, the second option will be the 23rd. Okay.
thank you. And, for Chief and the Traffic Committee, I'm sorry I got off on that. I think this was great, thank you. I think there's been a lot of great progress.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you. Fine, thank you. All right, the next I want to bring the board up to date and the community up to date on is follow-up from a previous meeting regarding the tank farm at the 220 Mill Road, which was the Thermo Fisher site. And you have in your packet and is the correspondence and follow-up from Chief Ryan, who, you remember, he said he would take everything forward from the last meeting. And he's done a number of initiatives, which I think, are quite commendable in terms of the concerns that were raised at the meeting. One is, and I'll just go through them, one is there will be double-walled tanks installed. Second, there'll be interstitial alarms within the double-wall tank so that if something breaches the one wall, an alarm will be activated. And there'll also be overflow alarms for the filling of the tanks. An overflow tank installed in the event of an overflow that can accommodate 1,000 gallons. And then there's also a containment curb around the entire tank farm, which is a 6-inch high curb that can contain up to over 20,000 gallons of capacity, and which is 200% of the volume stored on the site, which is only 10,000 gallons. And then obviously finally there's a spill containment system. Therefore, if it does go into a drain, then it's all contained at the low point of the tank farm. So I think that addresses all the concerns we heard that evening. So I wanted to formally report back to the board and to the community that I think the concerns were taken seriously by certainly Thermo Fisher, who really put their engineering folks out there, and again Chief Ryan really followed up as he said he would at your meeting. So I wanted to.
Well, I mean, compliments to them, because I don't
Yeah.
ever remember in
Yeah.
3 years having someone, come back to us unrequested with improvements like that, so.
Well, I think
they-
it was requested, but.
Yeah, it
Well,
was
I mean,
part of
it
the letter.
was, but,
No, but they were very
Very prompt.
they were very
yeah,
prompt
I
and very.
mean, this was like
Yeah.
no arm twisting,
detail,
no, I
yeah.
mean, they went all out.
Yeah, they went all- yeah.
Everything we pointed out, they addressed.
Yeah, they've been very great to work with. The next thing I wanted to inform the board about is we received notice from the Northern Middlesex Council of Government regarding an award from the Department of Commerce's Economic Development Administration. And this is basically, sort of the COVID Economic Fallout Recovery Act. And they received a $150,000 grant under the Recovery and Resiliency Plan, and for a total project cost of $187,500. And again, this is for a Greater Lowell area recovery plan. I don't know, Pat, as NIMCOG, if anything you want to add to that, but it's really a great effort, from NIMCOG to help lead us out of this, challenge that we're in right now.
Yeah, I know they have resources there that'll, help decide where these funds will be used, and it definitely will be spread across the whole region. A lot of people seem to think that it's focused on Lowell, but I know this will definitely, include all the other communities that are part of NIMCOG.
Okay, great, thank you. The next item I have is give you a report on the room occupancy and meals tax revenue. The first quarter, the state releases the meals and rooms tax on a quarterly basis, and because of the coronavirus pandemic, as you know, there's been delays in payments and so forth, but we did receive payment at the end of September, and you can see a couple interesting things is, one is, as expected, the meals tax was down. It's roughly about 60% of what we received the year prior, so it's about $141,000, whereas the year prior we received over $200,000. And then if you go the years even before that, you can see about 160, 170. So, to no surprise, the meals tax, is suffering from the fallouts of the from the pandemic. What was a little shocking was the amount of the room occupancy tax, and I think it may reflect again the delay in payment, because if you look at the amount for the first quarter, it's $139,000, which is less than $10,000 from the previous year. But you can see in the last quarter in June was basically $4,000. So what we think is a delay in the payment and submittal, and is some even still ongoing. But even that was still staggering. And what we've learned, and what Chief Spinney had informed us as well, is that there are people staying in some of the hotels in town as a result of the pandemic, meaning service organizations and municipalities are housing people distressed by the pandemic in the facilities, and under those programs, as we had in the past when they were students, you remember, in the school and the community, that does generate rooms tax. So we'll look to see what we get at the end of December for the second quarter, But I just wanted to make the board aware that the amount was sort of higher than was forecast, given, the dire straits of hotel and travel. But again, what we're seeing is that some of the space is being utilized as, humanitarian and service efforts from people resulting from the pandemic challenge. So I just wanted to provide that information to the board and the community. And like I said, police and fire and Board of Health and others are aware of, in providing some assistance and services in response to that. The next item I have is just a formal notification that the federal government provided its annual funding under the Bulletproof Vest Partnership Program. Chelmsford received $18,135. It's not so much the amount of the awards, but we wanted to make the board and the community aware is that bulletproof vests continue to remain available for our personnel as well as those in the region and obviously across the country as part of the federal initiative, so that we know that we're at least sending the officers out there, as safe as they can be given the challenges of today. So
Is this like the state awards? Do we have to
this
fund
is
a
federal.
portion of it?
It's
or-
federal funding.
No, I know you said
Yeah.
it's federal.
But we
don't
don't
have to match
We don't
any
have
of
to
it?
match it, no. That's under that initiative. And then the last item, probably the most significant, is, and why it was listed last as it came in last as we were gathering, last Friday was the deadline for submitting of projects and funding requests under the Coronavirus Relief Fund, what's known as the CARES Act. The community of Chelmsford, we were awarded over $3 million way back in the first quarter of the last year under the pandemic relief assistance. As you can see at the top of the page, our round one reimbursement was only $128,250. And what's now case is basically the deadline was to get everything in for the end of October, and the monies have to be expended by the end of the calendar year. A lot of this stuff was held up because it was unsure what the Congress and the President may do in terms of modifying or extending the program, but as we know, that didn't happen. And so the deadline was, we were advised by state officials to get your projects in, and maybe it'll be modified and extended. It may even happen after the expiration of the grant program into the new year. But most importantly, we reached out to our departments, and as you can see, most of the funding is under schools for PPE, personal protective equipment, food service, the touch panels, the carts, and Neshoba Tech, because they allocated it based upon the membership of the communities, and as you know, we're over 30% of the students at Neshoba Tech. So again, that's the bulk of the funding. And then there are ones individually within the department, such as meal delivery for the Council on Aging, to the Meals on Wheels, to online training from EMS and public safety, because you no longer can do some of that in person, to an HVAC assessment in the schools that was done in coordination with the school unions and the school administration, and we're awaiting the final results of that analysis, and then air balancing and such in the schools. So again, the departments are on top of this, obviously primarily in the schools, but also other town departments, and Darlene and I will keep you updated as the months ahead as terms of the two things. One is the expenditures under this program, but also in terms of what, if any, additional extension there may be, because we'll leave this program if everything went forward at this point with over $1 million available. And we'll just see what happens to that in the future, and, and what further relief, because it was noted, we're entering into another difficult period, and clearly this is going to extend into the new calendar year. So that's what I have under my report this evening, Mr. Chairman. I do have an appointment for the board's consideration to the tree committee. Ivan Orlinsky submitted an application to serve on the tree committee. He's a resident of Elm Street, and he's available and interested in serving on this committee, so I would seek your appointment, confirmation of the appointment to Ivan for a term ending June 30th, 2023.
I'll make a motion to approve the town manager appointment of Ivan Orlinsky to the tree committee for a 3-year term expiring June 30th, 2023.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, a roll call. Pat?
Aye.
Emily?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Virginia?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. Congratulations to him.
Thank you.
Good news. All right, and then we go to item 9, which is town manager and select board goals. So basically what I did is I sent out, well, I guess at the last meeting I asked everybody to give their input and sort of type up what they thought we walked away with, and then I got those back. And I tried to compile those into one list. And this is what we have, so I just figured we'd run through them. Item 1 was address town sewer capacity, including the implications of current sewer connection moratorium, establish short, medium, and long-term options and recommendations, implement short-term viable solutions. So that was actually a combination of feedback I got back to come up with that one. And so the expectation was to engage consultant Weston and Sampson to evaluate current water, wastewater situation, make recommendations, and provide data for potential wastewater treatment plant in Chelmsford. Work with town departments, boards, and committees as applicable to address capacity issues, with the hopeful result that we get a report showing options, costs, timelines, and availability. Comments?
Have they started their,
We've gave them a notice to proceed. We're still awaiting a meeting with the Lowell officials in the other towns. Tingsboro has Woodward and Curran as their consulting engineer, and I can say without exaggeration, it's been almost 8 weeks now that we're seeking to have a meeting with the Lowell plant officials to get data, have a discussion, and move forward. I can tell you I am on this every 2 to 3 weeks, pushing this issue of a meeting, but it hasn't occurred at this time. We've heard from Lowell that they're willing to meet, they're interested in meet. We've heard from the city manager that they're going to meet, but the meeting has not occurred as of this time. So I will keep you updated.
But is that a good goal? Or a good?
I'm good with the goal.
I just think this study won't be completed by this fiscal year, just, you know that. I mean, when we went to
No, I
town
just
meeting, we
curious.
made it clear that it'll be about a year. That's why the moratorium went till next October, so.
Yeah, but just like any other goal in the
We'll get-
past,
we'll
it's
get
in
the
process.
interim
Yes,
reports
exactly, yeah.
and
So we'll give you interim
whatever
reports,
you-
yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead, George.
no, I'm sorry, I mean, just reading the paper and, Sal, he just signed
Yeah.
up for do the, so how's that gonna affect us, I wonder, I mean,
Yeah.
because it seemed like Low was at their capacity beforehand. Now, I mean, that seems like an awful big project, and I'm sure that that's not the whole project. You know what I'm saying? If he commits to that, and I'm sure somebody will come next door or whatever, there's gonna be residential, there's gonna be more commercial there. You get the courthouse, so you're gonna get a lot of, I know that the LRTA, at least down in South, did a lot of the work over there. You get a lot of law officers that are starting to move in, because you got every courthouse in the Middlesex County.
Right there.
District, from the Registry of Deeds and Juvenile Court, the District Court, the Superior Court, the Appellate Court, whatever. So, I'm just wondering how that's gonna affect their capacity. Are they gonna be able to talk to us? I mean,
Well, that's exactly, that's what we want to know, that's what Tingsboro wants to know, that's what Dracut wants to know, and even Tewksbury is interested in learning what is the capacity going forward and what are the options. And
will they,
in terms of expansion, because you're right,
I mean, we
all
don't
issues.
necessarily have to have if we did our own, just say hypothetically speaking, right? We probably don't need to have something that's gonna take on 100% of our capacity.
that's correct.
If we did something, say, that took on 50% of our capacity, or whatever is, where the infrastructure's already in place to handle it, as long as we can get our discharge permits or what have you, right? And then do it, if they could find out how much land required, do we have that land that it would be required in the right location right now, it might be easy. And then we could talk to Tingsboro, we could possibly talk to Westford for bringing a truck down Route 40, even 110, Tingsboro's gonna, I think Tingsboro's gonna, they're opening up on our side of the river, and, that makes a lot of sense.
We can discuss that, the planning stages of this, right?
Right.
I mean, it's-
I'm just thinking out loud, but it just, I mean, and again, I think, we mentioned the other day about the high school. I don't know if that was probably a very small plant in there. I don't even know, it's probably been, sitting in the weeds for a long, long time, but they had their own treatment plant there. And I was just thinking maybe you could bring, and I don't know how much capacity, but you could maybe take the 3 schools and if you could bring that back to life a little bit, every little bit helps, I think, you know what I'm saying? If you might save one project, that would bring a lot of tax revenue into town. I don't know.
No, it's complex, and that's why, because even something like the UMass West campus, if that had moved forward, you would have had issues of capacity at the pump stations in addition to, it's more than just the plant capacity, it's also capacity of pump stations and piping.
And all that. Yep.
Exactly, so yes, that study is intended to look at all those issues. That's why we asked for the amount that we did, because we wanted the contingency.
Right.
The baseline study was just under 90,000, we asked for 150 because we didn't know where this might lead us.
So,
But yeah, it's a good goal.
yeah, okay. So the second goal
So
was,
is the obstacle to meeting just scheduling and time, or is there another obstacle to meeting with all of these individual towns?
I don't know. All I know is that everybody's expressed interest in meeting, but the meeting hasn't occurred. So I keep pushing it, and I think the meeting can't take place until Lowell comes to the table. It's very clear. We're ready.
Would it be possible to just be a little bit more aggressive on it and say, here's a list of times, these are when we can meet, please select your best option?
That's their call more than our call.
It's their call. I mean, again,
Right.
we have consulting engineers.
They're the only one with a permit, right?
Right. They're in the driver's seat.
I think we have to
I don't know,
combine
I feel like
this.
sometimes the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So I'm just wondering if there's a way to just push it, to just be a little bit more aggressive and ask them specifically when they were thinking of meeting, and then giving them some dates. Say, look, next week, Thursday, that's great for me. What's good? Just anything you can do to nudge it forward.
I'll keep on it.
so,
I think we have to focus this on definition of goals.
yeah, we're
straying off
working on
the
goals
agenda.
tonight,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna,
That kind of is a goal, though. Let's
Yeah,
make
but
it
I mean,
move
that's a
forward.
big goal, though, as far as,
no, I agree.
Yeah.
Yep.
so at least we know where we're headed, we get some things out there.
So then I received feedback for the second goal, conduct a root cause lessons learned analysis to identify the process issues contributing to the town's current sewer capacity situation, identifying opportunities for improvement and recommend changes. The expectation is that the process, the issues that maybe are found in the process and identified and documented, in that way we will see the improvements, the opportunities for improvement and recommend changes, so that this type of result, make sure a surprise like this doesn't come up on us again. It could be a lesson learned with the sewer, but it may be something else in town. As long as the process is in place, we won't get surprised again, whether it is another utility or a shortcoming in one of the town services that are offered.
Do we ever have any meetings like with National Grid to see, if perhaps if we, expanded, like if we had taken off on 129 when we were trying to do it? I mean, I guess that it's a lot easier for them to come in and build the power up.
We're not aware of any capacity issues on 129, much like Lowell did when they had to build the plant off of Brick Hill Road into Lowell from the Lowell capacity project. We're not aware of any sewer or...
It's a lot easier for them to do it than, because they don't have to go through all the permit process and
Right.
whatever, and I'm sure they can buy as much electricity as they need, and you just gotta...
But using that as an example, my concern would not, with National Grid and electricity, necessarily wouldn't be the ability to supply energy. It's, and I don't know how much of this is true or not, but I've heard that the substation that's behind Dunkin' Donuts there is very, very outdated, and when a transformer in there goes, it takes potentially weeks, if a few went, months to get them all replaced, which means sections of Chelmsford could be left without electricity if 2 or 3, if a car went right through it, right? It could be months before that station's back up and running. So how do we address an issue like that? Can we have a process in place to address issues like that?
We can ask National Grid, but
Yeah.
if you think dealing with the city of Lowell is tough, you ought to try dealing with National Grid in terms of their infrastructure.
But we need to know those type of shortcomings.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, 'cause
what do you
we-
do? You can't say to your citizenship, sorry, you're 2 months without electricity.
No, there were concerns about a decade ago about power outages in certain
Yeah,
areas of town.
that's when we did put the maintenance program
That's when they put the
in.
maintenance, exactly.
Whatever.
But,
It was about 10 years ago now, 9 years ago, when we had the last problem.
I think we should come up with some type of a process and then look at what other services to the town could be impacted and make sure
Well,
that,
you get your water departments as well, I mean, I think, but we have annual meetings basically with each, which is a big, but
Which is
that's a
good.
big thing too. I mean, water's the new gold, right? So,
okay.
I mean,
no, I'll reach out to National Grid, see if they can give us some presentation or report on their sewer and,
Yeah, and I know we get updates from National Grid Gas.
Right,
and they
National
tell
Grid
us,
Gas and electric.
leaks and all that. but
Right.
Those are things that we should, at least once a year
Yeah.
review, just to make sure, maybe once every other year, to make sure we're not
okay,
having exposure that we then have to explain.
okay.
Goal 3 is develop plan for use of the Warren Pole Farm. The expectations is to work with the members of the ad hoc committee and the Chelmsford Land Conservation Trust to take into consideration all parties to implement recommendations, engage individuals and groups to define best use for the property while addressing the Warren Pole family intent, abutter concerns, and community input. With the result that the with the result to execute conservation restriction for the subject property, submit a plan for municipal uses of the property such that it will be self-sustaining.
My only change is I would substitute the word ad hoc committee and the expectations to the Conservation Commission. The ad hoc committee is dissolved. I've been working with Dave McLaughlin, the Conservation Commission. They'll be the ones, who be the principal parties on the town's behalf, and then the land trust on holding the restriction. So the change I would request is.
Do you have any type of report from ad hoc?
Not beyond what we received
So you,
prior to that.
right, so you have the draft report, so that may provide.
that's been
that-
shared-
that
and that's
might
been shared
provide-
with
that-
the-
That would
yeah.
provide input to inform the process with the
Right,
Conservation
right. And
Commission.
that's been
But the
shared with-
committee itself is dissolved, so it should really be worded in terms of
Right.
the ad hoc report being available to
Right,
inform the process.
and that's been shared with the Conservation Commission, but going forward, in terms of the execution of the conservation restriction, the management of the property, the plans for the use of the property, that's gonna be with the Conservation Commission. I'm facilitating the discussions between Dave McLaughlin and the Land Trust, in terms of getting the baseline survey, getting the documents moving forward, so that will take place, yeah.
So I just have a quick question, because, I get stopped in the Walmart parking lot and someone said to me, rumor has it the Board of Selectmen shut down agricultural use on Warren Pole.
no, that was I'm sorry, but that was exactly that's
Yep.
why I raised my hand. I've had 3 people ask me the same thing.
I don't know where this is coming from, because no one has ruled out agriculture on Warren Pole. In fact, it'd be a disservice to the property to farm out agriculture, because in order to preserve that property in its state, you need to at least cut it once a year. And there's no reason why you couldn't, and in recent years, it's been hayed. I don't believe, in my discussions with Dave McLaughlin, and I have no indication that he thinks that the commission, it's not an opposing point from conservation to agriculture. That's not the case. We have Sheehan Farm that's
No, I agree.
preserved land that's, so that,
I
I
just
don't know
wanna-
where that's coming from.
Right, I just want to get it out there, because
It's not
it
true.
wasn't the only place I heard it, but.
No, and in fact,
Most surprised.
we may have to initiate the process of a license or a short-term lease while the conservation restriction's moving forward, because, here we are in November, and if somebody's gonna be farming that in the spring, you really gotta be reaching to them in the next few months. And I don't think that the restriction will be completed that soon, so yeah, no, there's no, that's, I don't know where that's coming from.
Yeah, I heard it 3 times. That would go well with what Ms. Melanson had to say tonight, I think, with some of the gardens or whatever, maybe, that's what I thought, but I think that's when it was discussed about, victory gardens and stuff like that, and whatever. They said, no, the selectmen turned it down. I says,
That never came to this board.
that's what I thought.
Well,
That's why I actually called somebody and I
No.
said, did we discuss it? And, no. I said, okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
So review the fiscal year 2021 financial status of the town monthly with the select board, including considerations attributed to the dynamic pandemic environment, with the expectation that we would manage the 2021 financials and provide transparency with respects to the fiscal year 2021 status on a monthly basis, identifying any opportunities and risks that may hit us, i.e., I think a good example was, dealing with the licenses tonight. I mean, that's definitely a direct hit from the pandemic. Financial status and considerations addressed monthly with the leadership team. So, that's it. Batting 100 at this point? This is going easy. I just jinxed us. Goal 5, establish a fiscal year 22 budget recommendation that raises the tax limit below the 2.5% while slowing the rate of increase on residents and local businesses and property taxes, with the expectation that the fiscal year 22 budget recommendation in accordance with this goal, and hoping that the result would be obviously a result towards this goal. Thoughts, Paul?
Yeah, the thought I have there is I think what needs to be added is I think I'd like to include a recommendation that would come out of the tri-board meeting in January, because I think we can't do it in a vacuum, and we need to hear from the school committee and have the finance committee at least at the table to agree upon a target and then produce a budget within that target.
And to that end, too, if it's going to be a tri-board sort of meeting,
Yep.
should we move this down to manager and selectman goals? Because this is just under your goals, but, I mean,
Well, I mean, the outcome is going to be mine, but
Yeah.
whatever. I'm just saying is I just think that it's, because when you talk about the revenue and the levy limit and so forth, it's one side of the equation.
right,
I think we need to hear on the
expense
other
side.
side, expense side, in terms of what's attainable and what does it mean at different levels. And that's why I said I think that can be achieved with the, tri-board meetings. So therefore, when I release a budget that's at the end of January, it has that kind of input.
And you can also help set expectations with
Right.
those different components.
Right. And the challenge now is we need the state to finish this year's budget and get going on next year's budget, so we have some, and obviously become clear after tomorrow and the weeks ahead in terms of where we're heading, but at least because what I'm understanding is the governor hopes that this year's budget process is wrapped up by Thanksgiving, and therefore, because what he wants that done is so therefore he can release his proposed budget for 22, which we're talking about here, by the end of January, which is our time frame as well. So again, we're, obviously there's a lot of unknowns, but we've got to proceed even with the unknown. So I think that's the effort.
So is it that you work with the tri-board participants to establish a FY22 budget recommendation?
No, not the recommendation, the revenue target, because what this is speaking of is establishing a budget that regarding the levy limit. So my guidance that I'm looking for that meeting is, okay, what's our target? In other words, if this year the budget's $140 million, what should the target be for next year? And let's say the target's 142, and the levy limit's 143. Well, that's fine. Then we know the target's 142, and then you're $1 million under the levy limit. That's what we, based on the uncertainties and what we know, that's what I'm looking for to come out of the tri-board, saying, okay, what's our best estimate on what we have, but also what are the demands coming on the other side, such as contractual obligations, the retirement assessment, and health insurance, and so forth. And then what does that mean in broad parameters, if that's the target?
Okay.
Right, I think that's what we're looking for.
That's,
So that, yeah, okay.
that's reasonable.
Okay.
6 is traffic safety, sort of like what we just had done tonight. Provide monthly updates and progress measurements on traffic safety issues and action items, with the expectation that traffic issues, actions, and status reviewed on a monthly basis with us, having Chief Spinney come in and talk and
Yeah. Gary.
have you give us updates.
Yep.
And obviously, we just want to progress. We want to have monthly progress reviews with some sort of measurable success, and then identify new areas of concern.
And obviously, I assume the access road wraps into that as well.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
To continue the fire department overview, review the outcomes from the criterion report and other audits to assess the next steps for the fire stations 3, 4, and 5. The end goal is understanding what needs to be done to keep these engines operational and in compliance with current standards. If not, then what would the plan be? And we would expect that we could establish common understanding of what needs to be done to keep engine 3, 4, and 5 operational, if that's the goal, and if not. And again, operational means compliant with current standards, and if not, we need you to help us develop a path forward, and that would entail different reports and recommendations.
So what I'm trying to understand is what way I read this is, what would it cost to rehab the 3 remaining stations? We just, obviously the headquarters is done, we just approved funding a couple weeks ago to do the north, so now you've got 3 remaining stations. What would it cost to renovate and expand those facilities to operate them all and staff them? And then from that, what is the alternative or financially viable way forward, given the...
Well, not necessarily
Right,
from
because-
that, but more, if that's not financially able to go forward along that road, then what can we do to, whether it's...
Well, you're either
review the
4 stations, it's either 5, 4, or 3, right?
Right, well,
Yeah.
Criterion gave us the report, so then
Right.
we have to look at the
Okay.
4 and 3.
Okay, all right.
The 8th goal is acquire software that will provide for maintenance of board committee membership, with the expectations that we would evaluate, select, and install a software product that meets the town's needs and is compatible with the current website. And the result would be that the updated committee board membership list on the town website with accurate information of all members, address, email, telephone, term expiration, etc. It's interesting, I didn't think of this one, and I'm glad it came up because, when I was going through the wildlife bylaws with Ed Baroda, he asked me, I want to send all the town reps an email. Do you have an email link? And what we got was basically each person's email, but not in like a group list. So you would have had to retype in all 100 and whatever names, which is a brutal process. But I'm wondering if there was a software program that would allow town rep email, and then you click it, and just like there's a Board of Selectmen email, and we all get it, but.
You can do one. I mean, I guess my question is, I think that information is right there available on the website. It was last updated earlier this month. And we can do that for the town meeting reps. That's never been done. I'm not saying it's good or bad, a bad idea. I don't know if the town meeting reps want to get emails all the time from all the community, because the volume of emails that you receive. I don't know that that's what they bought. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but let me know, because we can set that up. We can obviously have a hyperlink that sort of town meeting reps.
And maybe by precinct.
By precinct? Or do you want to do it by total?
I said whose input was this goal?
Mine.
Was Pat's?
So, I would like you to weigh in.
Yeah, let me know how you want to do it, because, we can do it by precinct, and you want all? Or-
Well, I hadn't even thought about what you were talking about. Whenever I want to do that, I do kind of cut and paste.
Right.
I guess we could set it up, I would set it up no more than by precinct.
Okay, so
you know,
and then if somebody wanted to do it, they could do it 9 times.
Exactly.
Okay, all right, okay.
But I don't want to overspeak on you, Pat. This was your goal, so maybe you can tell us a little bit about what you were trying to accomplish.
Oh, I just wanted to accomplish having the committees accurate on the website,
That's
because
there.
it's a mess right now.
Well, it's there now.
It's-
It was updated,
It's a
it was
Word
updated at the
document
beginning of
now.
October.
Yeah, I haven't looked at it recently, but,
Yeah.
just it's...
And the
it's
reason
been-
there isn't a software program is we can't find software, not for a lack of effort. We literally, and that's why when I see the word software package, find software, like I said, it's not.
What other communities do? Other communities must maintain their committees, or do they do it?
You ought to look at other communities. It's not.
Maybe I will.
Yeah,
Maybe
honestly.
So is the goal to acquire software, or is the goal to?
I think the goal is the result.
Implement
Right.
accurate and reliable
Right.
maintenance of the.
Right,
Yeah.
it's mainly...
Are you
I think
okay
that's
with
what it
that?
is.
Yeah, I don't know, it doesn't really matter how we get there and what we
You got
use.
it. Okay,
As long as it's accurate and
okay. And keep it current.
accessible.
Yeah,
and-
keep it
and
current. That's
current.
what we're
Exactly,
working on,
yeah.
yeah. Okay.
All right, goal 9 was restarting local events. with the expectation we could work with event organizers to develop plans to safely conduct respective events, potentially on limited basis as appropriate to health and safety guidelines, with the result that safely engage residents in traditional local events. In the light of what was announced today.
As soon as we
Probably not gonna happen
can.
in a while.
Yeah, only 25 or less at this point.
I mean, it's a good goal. It's probably not going to be able to do anything till at least the spring
It
on
just,
it.
it says consider.
Yeah.
Right,
Yep.
exactly, right.
Okay.
10, implement recommendations of the Visions and Values Committee.
Oops, typo.
So per committee recommendations, committee presents at annual town meeting. Post 5, is that 5 and 5 on
Vision
town?
and
Vision and
values.
values.
Vision value, I'm thinking Roman numerals there, on Town of Chelmsford website and in municipal buildings, assure board, town boards, committees, and municipal departments, goal setting and strategic planning efforts align with the vision and value statement, with the hope that the results we're looking for are recommendations for A and B and implemented as stated. Examples of results for C may be a formal communication that shares the vision and value statement and intent with all boards, committees, and municipal departments, elevating awareness as appropriate in our interaction with boards, committees, and departments.
Some of this we've already done, so, exactly, yeah, so
Well,
we'll keep,
it's-
we'll keep,
we
yeah,
did
we'll
it-
keep
we
on
did
it,
it
yeah.
as part
We'll
of the
keep, we'll
fiscal
keep
year.
emphasizing it and moving on it, yeah.
11 is support the efforts of the age-friendly community and its pending action plan recommendations as appropriate and applicable. So we're looking to receive periodic reports, updates from the committee, take actions where appropriate, and hopefully the end result is improved communications, enhanced visibility for success, assistance in moving age-friendly initiatives forward. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
I think overall we're doing that. I know they're part of master plan and they have their monthly meetings and, you know. The 12th goal was monitor and support progress of the Diversify, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. Again, very similar to the age-friendly, receive periodic updates and reports from the committees, take actions as recommended, including training, seminars, except for all employees and board committee members. And we're hoping to improve communication, enhance the understanding of issues and concerns for all residents.
I mean, this was one that I had suggested, and I think it should be a joint, you know, I don't know how you intend to differentiate
I'm fair
between.
with that.
Right there,
Select board.
it says at the top.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
Oh,
Okay.
And then the last one is the select board goal, update board policies, with the expectation that we would update policies, including but not limited to, incorporate the board's name change, insert recently adopted policies, adopt and include codes of conduct for the board and town managers, with the result that we update accurate policies available on the board's webpage.
And I am making progress on this. My first task is going to be to kind of standardize the policies. If you've looked at them, you see that there's different fonts, there's different, you know, formats, how, you know, indentation is done, how bulleting is done, and things like that. So I want to try to standardize it first and then do the changes. And I do have a couple of recommendations for additional policies. So
Thank God.
I don't know when, you know, I know we're coming up to a couple of pretty busy meetings, so I don't know if we'll get to it
Yeah.
in December or January. I am
You
working.
know, it's not something, and my kudos go out to you, because it's not something that you pick up on until you have to, like, paste and connect some of this stuff in one document, and the formats are way off.
Exactly.
And then you're trying to get it to merge, and you can't get it to look right, and
Yeah.
until you work with it, you don't realize how much of a nightmare it is, and I can never figure it out, so thank you. All right, and that was it. So we'll edit the couple points we made, and thank you, everybody, for your input. That was, you made it easier, but not too easy, but it was still easier, so thank you. Meeting minutes.
I will make a motion to approve the Select Board regular session minutes for July 13, 2020, and July 27, 2020.
Second.
I think on the 27th, Emily was here, but on the 13th, she was not. So we should do them separately.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Because Emily has to abstain from one?
Correct.
Okay. I will make a motion to approve the Select Board regular session minutes for July 13th, 2020.
Second.
I noticed that, for some reason, I must have gone through these very quickly. There's just a couple of, minor typographical errors, which I can send to Vivian afterwards, like on page 4, it says "they board's role," it should be "the board's role," and just, a couple other, just,
I will amend my motion to incorporate the typographical error corrections that Pat will give to Vivian.
okay.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second with an amendment. All in favor by roll call. Pat?
Aye.
Virginia?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Emily, you're going to abstain, I assume?
Okay. I make a motion to approve the Select Board regular session minutes for July 27th, 2020.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor by roll call. Pat?
Aye.
Emily? Was that-
Aye.
Oh, thank you. George?
Aye.
Virginia?
Aye.
And I vote aye.
I make a motion to approve but not release the Select Board executive session minutes for August 31st, 2020.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor by roll call. Pat?
Aye.
Emily?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Virginia?
Aye.
I vote aye.
I make a motion to approve but not release the Select Board executive session minutes for September 28, 2020.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor by roll call. Pat?
Aye.
Emily?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Virginia?
Aye.
I vote aye.
The next is the release of the Select Board executive session minutes A through G. Is there any discussion on any of those?
There's not a vote, is there? It's just a release.
We just have to vote
We
to
have to
release.
vote to release them.
Yeah, these are all things that have already been completed,
Approved, right.
Okay,
so,
got it.
And there's no other Watton Street minutes anywhere?
correct.
Okay. So I will make a motion to release the Select Board executive session minutes listed in items A through G as stated.
We have,
Second.
we have a motion and a second. All in favor by roll call. Pat?
Aye.
Emily?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Virginia?
Aye.
And I vote aye. That brings us to liaison reports and referrals. Pat?
Just a couple of things. Last week, we lost a former selectman, Brad Emerson, a longtime resident in town of Chelmsford, and served, I think, at least 2 terms on the board, as well as many other boards and committees in town. He's going to be missed. He was a nice guy, very interesting guy. So condolences to the family of Brad Emerson. And also a last reminder, remember to vote tomorrow if you haven't already. You've had plenty of opportunity. Tomorrow's your last chance.
Thank you. Emily? No? Okay.
Nothing this week.
George?
All set.
Virginia?
Just a couple things. The Vinyl Square Strategic Action Plan Committee is holding their next meeting on Tuesday, November 10th at 7 p.m. And anyone is welcome to join that and observe it. The agenda and call-in link will be posted. The age-friendly community would like to announce that the library currently has computer tablets available for seniors to borrow for an extended trial period. You don't need any internet connection to use them, and the library staff will help you learn how to use it if you need it. So you can borrow that for books, movies, connecting to Zoom meetings, things like that. And if you already have a tablet or another device, they also have hotspots available to provide internet access in your home or anywhere you need it. So if either of those things interest you, you can call Vicky Turcott at the library at 978-256-5521, extension 1106.
Okay. With that, that brings us to press questions, and I only see Ms. Tanini and Mr. Chase in our room, so I don't see any press waiting. And I don't have anything in the chat box. I'm getting a note from Pete, though, saying that we're going to have the executive session not take place via Zoom. We're going to cut the meeting and have Emily call in if that's possible. Pete, do you want to explain?
Yeah, hey, can you hear me okay, guys?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, because, first of all, sorry for the beginning. You got the B team tonight. But I'm told that you've done this before. I'm a little concerned because the Zoom link is out there. It's a public link. So have you done this before?
Yes.
In terms
Yes.
of
Yes.
having someone call back in?
Yep.
Yeah, so if we can just do that. So what we'll do is we'll cut the broadcast, we'll cut the meeting, and that way everything's contained in that room, and someone can, and Emily, if you don't mind, you could just call back in and take place.
You ever know?
What should she call?
Can she,
It didn't work before.
no, but can she call,
One of you guys.
Cell phone.
yeah, somebody's cell
Can't
phone?
do it on a cell
Just a
phone.
telephone,
All right.
just a telephone, yeah. It'd be
I'll
just a
call, I'll try to
telephone.
call Emily from this
Well, you
phone.
can't stay for the meeting.
No, but I'll leave. No, I'll call her on
Okay.
the room phone.
Okay.
And then I'll
We can
leave.
discuss that after we.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, Emily, we'll call you or text you if we're having trouble.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Pete.
Yeah.
Great.
So do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of reviewing executive session minutes pertaining to strategy with respect to negotiations with the Police Superior Officers Sergeants Union to determine whether continued nondisclosure is warranted under the open meeting law, MGLC 30A 22FG,
And not to return to open session.
not to return to open session.
Oh, I don't know if Emily's still there. We have a motion and
As long as the four of us.
She's still there.
yeah, a motion and a second. Okay, a motion and a second. All in favor by roll call. Pat?
Aye.
Emily?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Virginia?
Aye.
I vote aye. Have a good night.
Well, you, I think you abstain,
What's that?
Well.
whatever. Yeah, I guess we.